Right, so we'll make a start. So it's a couple of minutes past 11. So hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Big thanks to you all for joining today. This is the third webinar now of our new series. So it started back in December and they are being recorded. So we'll share the recording with you all afterwards. And the recording for the last two are on YouTube already. So if you head to our YouTube channel or our events page on our website, you'll be able to access the recordings there as well then. So a big thanks to Adobe as well for joining us. We've got Jill and Charles from Adobe joining us as guest presenters today. And just a reminder as well, if you do have any questions, please post them in the chat at any time. Hopefully we'll have a 5-minute section at the end then to go over any questions. So just quickly, so my name is Mark Price. I'm the Business Development Director at Pugh. So I won't be on for very long. I'm just going to give a quick recap of what our new webinar series is. And then I'm going to hand straight over to Jill and Charles, who are going to be going over Substance 3D within higher education and further education, including a live demo as well. So really looking forward to that. So just quickly, as I said, this is the third one. They are held on the first Wednesday of every month. Typically, they do change sometimes depending on availability of speakers and if there's any school holidays or things like that. But they're designed really to get the maximum benefit for you from your Adobe investment. So we'll be bringing you latest news, updates, like today we've got live demos and enablement and things like that. And if you do have any feedback or suggestions, please post them in the short poll we've got towards the end. So that will make sure that moving forward then these webinars are tailored to your exact needs and that you get the most out of them. And if you've got any colleagues who are interested, please pass on the invitation. You know, it's the more the merrier really. So we're happy for you to share that invite to any of your colleagues. So yeah, straight over to Jill, I believe first, and then we'll have a live demo afterwards from Charles.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, welcome everybody. Good morning. And thank you, Mark and the whole of Pugh team for organizing this webinar. So I'm Jill. I've been working in Adobe for about 4 years as an education specialist. I'm based in Milan and I used to be a teacher before joining Adobe. I'm here with Charles, who is working in the Substance team. So Charles, I'll let you just say a few words.
So hello everyone, I'm Charles. I've been part of the Substance team for nearly 9 years now, so I've seen the product grown, and I've also taken care of education for 5 years, so I'm well aware of all your needs, and I'm just happy today to present you Substance.
Thank you, Charles. So we are here today basically to give you information about Adobe Substance 3D and show you how you can use Substance with your students. As you may know or not know yet, and just to give you a brief introduction, the Substance 3D suite is made of 5 applications. So you have got Modeler, Painter, Sampler, Designer, and Stager, which are all contained in your Adobe Creative Cloud licenses. It has a library of customizable assets to support your projects. It won an Oscar last year, Substance Designer did. It integrates and complements very well with existing software on the market due to numerous plugins and native integrations. And of course, it will equip your students with the skills they need when they enter the workforce. So Charles, if you can move to the next slide.
I need to share my screen. All right. This one, Jill? Yeah, good.
Yeah, that's good. So basically, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what does a Substance 3D actually allow me to do? So from product and packages designs to 3D rendering, 3D painting, and 3D modeling, Substance 3D brings a whole new perspective to your work. Simply put, basically allows you to give life to your content. Next slide, please. Yeah, so by adding lights, textures, materials, and shapes to your creation. Texturing is the heart of the Substance offering toolset. And even in other non-Substance software, you can bring all the Substance contents to do beautiful texturing and material work. So we have included here quite a few resources. We might not have time to play them all, but basically this is a short video that can let you appreciate what Substance does best. And as mentioned before, you can see the breadth of materials, textures, and lights in this calm escape production, as it's called. And Charles, feel free to add your comments on the video. You're very familiar with it.
Yeah, so this video was done actually by two-person, a CMF, a color and material finish artist, and a technical artist. It's all done in Unreal, and so it shows how Substance can plug almost anywhere. And the goal there was just to propose a nice selection of very beautiful photorealistic materials with a lot of details, and all type of materials you can create or just obtain with Substance. We have all that available on the Substance channel on YouTube, so you can find those and much more for any type of industry. If you're more into gaming or VFX, we have that. If you're more into automotive or art visualization or interior design, we have those always also, sorry. So a lot of different visuals just to show the myriad of possibilities you have with Substance.
Thank you. So just to go back to education, so in Adobe Education, our goal has always been creativity for all, which means, you're putting the power of creativity and digital literacy in the hands of all students equally. It is very much in this spirit that the application of Substance 3D were added at no extra cost into the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite about 2 years ago for higher education, so that students can actually learn the skill they will need when they enter the workforce. Today, we know, as you can see from the World Economic Forum, that the bigger blocker of industry transformation is a skill gap in the labor market. And as you can see from the video that's starting playing, some institutions and teachers are already including Substance 3D in their curricula. I've added here the example of the University of UAV in Florence, Italy, where teachers and students are working with Substance 3D in their master course for digital architecture. And where students are learning the skills that they will need for their careers. In the interest of time, we can't play the whole video, but you have a link just underneath it where you can go and see it later on. Next slide, please, Charles. Thank you. So as you can see, there you go. There's a bit of a delay. So as you can see from this slide, Substance is being used in many industries. So in video games, we are world leader in the video game industry, where 95% of the AAA studios are using Substance. In architecture, I've just shown you the example of UAV University and how they're using Substance to, in the master's program to elevate their digital materials, but also in industrial design and film and animation. I invite you to consult the Adobe 3D Substance's use case page, and I've included the link at the bottom of this slide, where you can find more examples, like Charles was saying, how Substance is being used in different areas and for different cases. So that's it for me. I'll just leave it with Charles, who will be showing you the fantastic Substance suite.
So I'm going to go quickly. I have two a bit more commercial slides. Well, it's slides that we usually present to companies, but I think it works very well for schools too. The idea with the Substance suite of 3D software is that you can propose software for each step of content creation. And this is especially true for product design and then anything from game to all that range, and from ideation, so creating visuals, concept, ideas, to finally creating visual content at scale. So for example, if I am Decathlon or Salomon, I'm using thousands of images for all my website and marketing, I can use Substance tools at each step to improve what I'm doing and to create more. And so obviously mastering those tools and having knowledge of proper 3D pipeline, which is very important for scalability, will give students and anyone actually a lot of power and a lot of interest when they're being hired for those positions. And so if you have to remember just a few slides of this whole presentation, I think this one is a good one because it just sums up a few of the advantages of Substance. So first, as Jill said, the heart of Substance, what we do best is texturing. So Substance is one of the best, if not the best, texturing tool in the whole industry. We also have a very non-destructive workflow. The idea is that when you create something, you don't have to redo anything. You can just tweak, change, and you never lose progress or you never lose what has been created, which is very important for an artist. We really want people to feel free about what they're creating and not thinking about the whole process or being stuck in it. We have an asset library that's connected to it. So as Jill said, we have the softwares, but also a lot of content that comes with Substance. And of course, being part of the broader Adobe ecosystem, we're connected to the Creative Cloud and to a lot of other software. We have a native Illustrator integration. We export PSD files for Photoshop. We work now in Adobe Premiere. Sorry, not Adobe Premiere, but After Effects. It's more correct. So as you see, we speak and talk to other softwares. And that is true with the Adobe software, but also we have seamless integration into many 3D softwares of the whole ecosystem. Through native plugins or through integration, we can work with any workflow you have. Because at school, if you do 3D, you probably use Blender, you might use Maya, or some AutoCAD software, stuff like that. Substance will work with it. We're not a dead end, we're really a tool that will multiply the possibilities you have, and that is very important for us. And so precisely, what are what is the power of Substance? What do we offer? So there is 5 main points that we can sum up. Is that we kill pain and we make stuff more fun and more easy. But in more details, first, you can see that Substance materials are photorealistic. Obviously, you've seen it through the presentation. You might have looked up a bit of Substance, and being photorealistic or stylized is something we do very, very well. But you could say that you can do photorealistic in Photoshop if you take 10 more times or 5 times more time. You know, it's very long and arduous to texture within Photoshop. Or you could do it in Blender, you could do it in other tools, but it's just not as good, right? But you could do it, right? So what's the real power of Substance? So what is the little thing that we have more? Is that Substance materials are parametric. Every Substance file, which is a .sbs or a .sbsar, is actually a file that is procedurally made. And so you have all those little knobs and sliders and buttons you can tweak and change in real time in Substance Painter, or like for example, Unreal or Unity, and you can tweak your materials. If for a production, for a client, for a course, you tell a student or someone that they need to tweak that brick wall, they don't have to redo all their masks in Photoshop. They don't have to redo the whole texturing. They can do everything. It's just one material is hundreds of thousands of variations of that material. And it can be very, very powerful, right? We can see a bit more examples there. It's just one material and all the variations you can create. So obviously, we're talking about all the steps of content creation. For ideation, for prototyping, it's very, very powerful. You can just play with it until you see something that you like, right? And because we have a huge library of materials that we've created for you that you can create, those parameters makes the possibility endless and quite really fun to play with. And so we've seen that everything looks very nice and dandy, photorealistic, or it can be stylized. For example, the movies Dragons or How to Train Your Dragons are fully made with Substance. Or the latest Puss in the Boots 2, I think The Last Wish it's called, is made 100% with Substance Painter for texturing, which is quite impressive. But also Substance saves modeling time, which is very, time expensive, and modeling is very hard to change. If I model a shoe, if I model a vase or anything, if I want to change the base model, it's going to cost me a lot. But also, the more details I put into it, the more time and the more restriction I have after for the texturing part. And there you can see that those buildings that we're tweaking are actually just plain cubes, right? And all the information of depth and geometry is just displacement. That is very, very powerful. And so it means that a Substance material can also bring a lot of detailed information, like, height and just normal, which is small detail. Because with that powerful displacement, you can really add geometry to what you're doing. And then Substance works everywhere. We've touched a little bit about it with the first slide we've seen, is that we plug into the Adobe ecosystem, but we also plug to all the tools in the 3D environments. And we don't have everything there, but I think you probably recognize all of those software and you probably use them, or at least some of them. There is pretty rarely the case where someone has a software that's not on this slide, and usually we still have a way to make it work with Substance. We have very solid export presets, so it's very easy to work with. And so as you can see, we really make a hard point to just work with the whole industry, because for us, it's very important to understand your workflow and to make it better. And that's the way we approach schools and clients alike, right? And finally, substance materials look the same everywhere. It's just a final little thing, but it's very hard sometimes when you have a software and you export to another one to see that your parameters do not work, that a normal map does not work the same, it does not plug in the same way. So we have very solid export preset, as I said, but also we have color management options in Substance tools. So it means that you can be color accurate. So if you do printing, if you do VFX, if you do stuff for a real physical product, you can be assured that your visuals that you get in Substance Painter, for example, are the same as what you see, in the real world, or what you'll see on another tool. And so a little recap of all the products that we have currently within Substance. So as you see, it's quite complex, right? It's quite complete too. We'll go through them all quite quickly, not to bother you or to flood you with information, but basically you have tools to create content, modeler, sampler, designer. You have tools to beautify, so to do the texturing with Painter. And then delivery experience is to stage your content, or with Project Sunrise, it's more to create content at scale. You've created everything with all the tools previously, and Sunrise is just a multiplicator. You put one asset in it and you get thousands of variations or thousands of images that you can use across many different industries. So skills around those tools are very varied, right? Modeling is a very specific skill. And then in Project Sunrise, it's a Python API that you can use, or you can use a web automation. And then from sampler to stager and in between, there is a lot of different type of artistry and artists. There's few people that master everything, right? But in a studio, usually people are going to pick one type of software and going to be excellent with it. And usually we see it's either modeler for modeling, or designer for creating content with parametric nodes, and painter for texturing. That's the main three area of jobs titles, I say, that we've seen. All right, is there any questions yet, Jill? And yes, do not hesitate to put question in the chat. Yeah,
there is one asking, I don't seem to have the option to download Substance product within Creative Cloud. Do we need to upgrade a license?
So normally every school with Creative Cloud has access to Substance. What you need to make sure is that your IT has created a package and deployed it for the school. It's not available by default to any school students or teachers, stuff like that. Your IT need to first create the package and deploy it on the school machines. That might be the issue. If you have more issue with deployment, please do contact Jill and I, or your usual Substance representative, and we can look at it.
And that's it. No other questions.
All right, perfect. And I think we can talk about the student teachers free licenses, perhaps. Jill, what do you think?
Maybe later, if you want to continue, and then
yeah, we'll
come back to that. Yeah.
Just a little gift afterwards about free licenses. It's always nice. So we'll go on through the softwares now quite quickly. I've just spent a little bit more time on Modeler because this is our latest tool, and I think it's a very exciting one. As you can see, it's a modeling tool. A lot of clue in the titles each time. You can use it in VR, as you can see there, to create very complicated shapes, because if you tried sculpting or modeling, creating shapes with 2 axes and rotations and stuff like that on a desktop with a mouse and keyboard can be very complicated. It requires a lot more time. Whereas with VR, you can just create so quickly complex and organic shapes. But VR is not the sole way the software works. Substance Modeler works on desktop and VR both, and seamlessly. If my colleague Louise did, we can see where to remove her headset, it would swap automatically to the desktop version. So there is really no limitation. You can use it the way you prefer to use it, right? And so it works also for hard surface and for organic way. I just wanted to add that this is not a CAD software, so it's not designed to do CAD stuff, but it still works really well to do visualization and a lot of assets. And I have a little video there about it. So you can see that the interface is very simple because we really wanted people to focus on just the clay, on just working the material and creating with it. And it makes a workflow that's quite simple to learn, but obviously being modeling, it takes a lot of time to master. But even me, which not a modeler at all, I can still have fun with it. And at a few moments, I can create little objects and stuff like that and export them to the rest of the Substance ecosystem. And there we can see we've created this, I'm going to say Steam Deck, it looks a lot like it. And then you can bring it into Substance Painter and apply a lot of texture, and in Substance Stager, make a final render out of it. And obviously, someone much more talented will be able to create beautiful characters and objects. Like you can see there, we have Guido that is doing amazing work with all those assets. Just going to leave it a little bit there. And it's very interesting to work with it. All right. So modeler to create models, I think for that is quite easy. And then we have Substance Designer, which is a very complicated software, so we won't gonna stay too much on it, but basically it's a nodal software. You see those little boxes, we plug them together and it creates materials. And you can see the result there, all those little boxes together, they've created a procedural material, and that's how all of the substance materials are created. It makes it very powerful, but also very approachable. It's not very complicated, it's complex. It's a lot of little elements, but none of it is very complicated. There you can see it. As I told you, it can be a bit frightening, but once you've understood that just one box is one little operation and just add those operations sequentially, it makes it quite easier to understand. So we've created textures. Procedurally, we've created models, and then we have Sampler. Sampler create models and textures, but in another way. Sampler is all about photogrammetry, capturing and digitizing the real world. And there we can see it. I think that's a video, perfect. You can take pictures of materials, and we have an image to material tool that creates 3 textures from just a simple picture. Obviously, the more picture, the better the quality, but it's still awesome. And then you have a lot of filters and parameters to make it look like you want. And then you can even tweak the colors, add effects on top of it, and etc. So it's a very, very powerful tool. Then I have photogrammetry. So photogrammetry, it's more classic there. It's just taking a lot of pictures of an object, you're bringing into Substance Sampler in a very, very easy process. It's literally just clicking next each time almost. You'll be creating beautiful 3D objects out of it. And this does not require a lot of 3D knowledge, to be honest. It's just following the steps and making it look nice. The quality of your picture will impact the results, obviously. Oh, sorry. But it's very easy to play with. And then you can add all the substance magic on top of it, which is very nice. So Sampler, all about digitizing the real world. Just going to leave it there a little bit. And obviously in Sampler, once you've digitalized your object, you can tweak the materials and everything and make it look like very nice. All right. So we've seen those 3 tools to create content, right? Modeler, Designer, and Sampler. And obviously, if you don't have time or if you don't want to work with that, or maybe currently your curriculum is all about texturing, so you don't want to create content, you just want to teach students how to texture stuff, you can use the Substance 3D Asset Library. Because this asset library has thousands of materials and models that are ready for you to use. And you can download them and play with them, and it makes it very, very powerful. And currently, I think it's the biggest 3D library available. We're bigger than Quixel in number of assets. It's a bit different. You'll tell me it's not really comparable, but it's quite a fun number nonetheless. And so we have thousands upon thousands materials, and each month we're bringing new ones in creative collections for each type of industry or each type of needs. And I'm really proud of all we brought in Substance 3D assets. I may have a little video there. Yeah. Just to show you different type of material and how powerful it can be. And again, all those videos are done in Unreal, if I remember correctly. So it just shows how easy it can be to plug Substance material in any other type of software. You don't really need a Substance software to use a Substance material, which make them very versatile. And okay. All right, and you can see all the materials that have been used in the video here, for example. I have a lot of videos of those materials. I really like them. And so finally, we have Painter. So you bring your model, you bring the materials you've picked, created, digitalized from the real world. You bring everything into Substance Painter. And Substance Painter is there where you paint and texture your hero asset, for example. So there we have a chair, but it could be a character. A lot of video games use 95% Substance Painter for texturing. And you can have all the tools that you expect, and it looks a lot like Adobe Photoshop too. You have a layer stack to the right. You can import your Photoshop brushes, and makes it very easy to get your hands on if you already know Photoshop. And there we can see a little bit of details and everything on putting the little sticker there. And you can download materials, bring it into the software very easily, and by the end you get a beautiful render. That render you would not do in Substance Painter. Substance Painter, in one click, you would send it to Substance Stager. And Substance Stager is currently our renderer tool. It's very easy to use and to learn, which makes it very powerful. So there we have a little demo there. You can just bring asset very quickly from the asset library. You can go on the Substance 3D asset library online and bring assets. Just rotate them, position them, use physics to position them correctly to avoid that they just get into each other. And just drag and drop materials. Because they're procedural materials, you can change the resolution at any time. You can change parameters, colors of those materials, and then you can bring some elements into Substance Painter, and there put all the artistry and the details that make an asset shine, right? All the human interaction that makes it nice. The same for this little pencil, for example. There, just tweak a little bit the normal to give it the edge that has been cut. And then we just brought a PSD file or an Illustrator file. You can just drag and drop into Substance Stager, and it just works marvelously. And in the end, we have beautiful renders that are done with Substance Stager. And this one, actually, the smoke is added afterwards because we export a PSD file. And so then you can tweak again your render in Photoshop or Lightroom like you would do with any traditional process, right? Traditional image. And we have a little video with Photoshop, for example, to show you an integration of Substance in Photoshop. So I'm just going to go quickly by it. But in Photoshop, for example, if you want to use Substance materials, you can just download them by opening the Material tab and just drag and drop on your Photoshop file, and make it very, very interesting to iterate on concepts and designs that way. All right, so I'm just going to leave it there. I think we're just right on time. If you have questions, please do ask.
There is a question in the chat who's asking, do we have an example workflow that uses Sampler, Designer, and Painter, as I have these three tools in my cloud license?
Yeah, you can have that. So, for example, we have, oh, sorry, normally I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And so we have currently available on the website a user story from Salomon and Decathlon, which are sport brands, for example, that are using Substance in their production to create beautiful images. And they're using Designer to create materials, Designer and actually Sampler. Sampler in the textile industries used a lot to digitalize materials. Then they bring in to Designer to add custom stuff on top of it. So they would digitalize a leather or a fabric, like for a t-shirt, stuff like that. And then they can add procedural effect on top of it. And then they bring a clothes or like a t-shirt or a shoe they've created in Clo, in Marvelous, and Browserware, so other 3D software dedicated for fashion, for example. And then in Painter, they would add all the textures to those and modify them. So we have those available. I think Jill and
I can share the blog link. It's in the blog, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
we will send you the details of the blog. We have a multiple user story. We have Hugo Boss currently, Salomon, Decathlon are good ones. And I know, for example, like Nike is one of our biggest customer currently, and they're doing all their communication with Substance. So yeah, it's being shared in the chat, so you'll be able to have all the details about that.
Perfect. Thanks to you both. If there are any more questions, please post them in the chat. Just quickly, I've put up a slide. So next Next month's webinar will be on the 6th of March. The details on the topics we are still finalising, but the registration link's live, so we can follow up with a bit more details when we have them in the next few days. And just quickly, we do run a series of Microsoft Campus Update webinars as well. So if that's something that you're dealing with your universities or colleges, or if you know any colleagues more into the Microsoft and the productivity side, you can pass on the invite to them, please. We'd love to have you along. And we've got Smart as a guest presenter, so they'll be going through their latest new interactive boards for education and looking at how to monitor and manage those all those boards sort of behind the scenes as well. Then so. Very, very relevant for IT and network managers and those roles.